Hey, real quick before we start today's show, I want you to watch today with a mindset of, should I send this to every person that I know? I know, I know, I've never asked that before, but listen to today and decide, should I send this video to every single person I know? Okay, with that in mind, listen to the show today. Hello, this is the Rachel Ham Show. I'm Rachel Ham. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you had a great Christmas. I did have a good Christmas. I used to be really sad when my kids started getting bigger because I felt like I didn't want them to grow up and everything change and the things like Christmas would not be as sweet. But I have to tell you, I like having adult kids and I like having adult kids at Christmas time. It's a lot more relaxing, a lot more fun. And I'm enjoying this stage of life a lot. So if you have little kids, don't feel sad about them growing up. You just go from kind of one fun part of life to a different fun part of life. So just don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. But I wanted to share with you a few things today. I want to share with you a dream, actually several dreams that I've had. And then also I have an announcement to make today, which is pretty exciting for me because it's something I've been working on. And so I'm excited to tell you about it. And the two go together, actually. So as we prepare for 2024, I thought that, I'm very curious about 2024. I'm very mixed about how I feel about the year ahead. I feel like as I've pursued the Lord and trying to kind of hear what's on his heart for 2024, I do feel some sense of like, brace yourself, prepare kind of stuff, which I'm not a doomsday person whatsoever. In fact, I'm the eternal optimist. I really am. And I also believe that with God, no matter what is happening in the world around us, we have an opportunity to thrive and to have joy and peace no matter what. So I wholeheartedly believe that. So please, as I share today, know that I'm sharing from that place, from the place of God is good, and everything's going to be okay. Okay. But I have to tell you that my husband and I both have been having a lot of dreams. I mean, like we've been dreaming like every single night. We get up every morning, have our coffee, talk about our dreams. My husband's actually incredible at interpreting my dreams. So it's really fun to do that. I love dreams and I love sharing that with my husband. So we on the same night had interesting, somewhat disturbing dreams. I had a dream that there was a substantial earthquake and he had a dream that there was a huge tsunami. We woke up, we talked about our dreams, and then I opened my computer and the main headline was a tsunami, an earthquake and tsunami hit the Philippines. I was like, wow, that's very interesting. But it's gone on where we've continued to have a lot of dreams about turmoil, about natural disasters, but also man-made disasters. So again, no fear, no dread whatsoever. Ultimately, it's good. So stick with me. If you're the kind of person who, doesn't want to hear hard things, stick with me. Stick with me. Okay. So the main dream that I wanted to share was one about a tornado. And part of why I wanted to share it was someone named Rita Springer had she had a vision, but mine was a dream, but it was almost exactly the same. And I was fascinated by that. So I'm going to tell you my dream, and then I'm going to show you a clip of Rita sharing her vision. So in the dream, I was in a big body of water that was kind of like a lake. But around the edge, at first I was just in the middle of this lake and it was dark. It was nighttime. It was like very, very dark. And there were some people around. It kind of felt like some of my family was on the edge of the lake or somewhere in the lake, kind of just spread around. And I was swimming and all of a sudden I turned and I saw this gigantic black tornado. And it's important that it's black because sometimes in a dream, there will be a white tornado and sometimes there will be a black tornado. White tornadoes are sent from God. They're coming in to disrupt some things that need to be disrupted. Black tornadoes are from the enemy. In my experience, in my dreams, that's the case. So this was a black tornado. And it was too close to really do much about it. So it was very close. I began yelling out to get everyone's attention, prepare for impact. A tornado's coming in. I began swimming really fast to the edge of the lake, which as I approached the edge of the lake, I began calling on the name of the Lord. Lord, help us, help us, help us, help us. Like, just Jesus, like, yelling out. And as I get to the edge of the lake forms into what is like the edge of a pool, like a swimming pool. You know how there'd be like a cement edging that you can kind of go and hold on to. That formed in front of me. And I was like, that's a miracle. So I grabbed onto the cement edge and I was like trying to like kind of put my body up onto the cement and hold onto the cement as the tornado hit. I mean, it was just like boom, 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 very quick. The tornado hit the water, and it was spinning water all over, and everyone was getting wet. Everything was getting wet. There were houses around. You could see them just getting sprayed with water. And then it kept going through. And I kind of was like, that wasn't that bad. Like, I mean, it sprayed some water around, kind of made a mess, but I'm fine. And I looked around and my family was all there and they're all fine. And I'm taking note of everything. It's like, okay, they're fine. They're fine. They're okay. All my little loved ones and me, we're fine. And I could see the tornado moving past us, continuing on in its path. And I woke up. So I felt like the Lord said 2024 is going to bring some tornadoes, both literally and metaphorically, or more like, as far as like a literal tornado, and then the kind of tornado that's more like economic, governmental, causing problems, causing chaos, whatever. But it's a metaphorical, tornado of sorts. But I feel like he said 2024 is going to bring tornadoes, and they're scary and they make a mess and are disruptive, but all who call on the name of the Lord will be saved. Now, saved physically, literally, maybe. Also, maybe just saved in that there is a way for those who call on the name of the Lord to be fine right in the middle of things going haywire. And so I want that to encourage you. And also I want to go ahead and show you now Rita Springer's vision, where she got something very similar from the Lord. So I'm going to show that to you now. Let's take a look.
I had this encounter earlier this year where I just was looking out my front window and I had this massive vision about how I felt. It's this season I've been in with this tornado coming up the street headed for our house so violently that I could hear the shingles being ripped off the roof. And in this vision, I'm sitting there and I'm seeing this thing happen and I start screaming, God, I need you fast, quick, come. And I hear the door chime coming from the garage and I hear the Lord coming up the hallway and he's whistling as if nothing's wrong. And he says, hey, I found a flat tire on a bicycle out in your garage. I pumped it up for you. And I flipped around in this vision and I said, there is a tornado about to rip our house to shreds. Who cares about a bicycle in the garage? And the look on his face in this vision, he just kind of cocked his head and he says, wow, you are so distracted by what I'm not doing that you cannot see what I am. And I come out of this vision and I just was like, I want to see what you're doing. But the anxiety and the fear has my trust just dissipating in the moment.
Yes.
And for a couple months, I really struggled with that stupid bicycle in the garage. And then, a few weeks ago, I was just sitting in my back porch and I was just thinking about trust and actually this, I want to call it a glittering, shimmering season with the Lord, because I would not be getting to the places that I am getting with the Lord if I wasn't in this season. And so I was just sitting on the back porch and the Lord just said, can I ask you a question? And I said, yeah. He goes, when do you ride a bicycle? And I sat there and I was like, I know the bicycle he's talking about in the garage. And I'm like, that ain't a 10-speed. You know what I'm saying? That's not a workout bike. I'm not like, you won't see me in bike shorts going on a bike ride. I'm like, this is a beachcomber with an anthropology basket in the front. You could throw a baguette and a bag of flowers. This is like and he said, Yeah, it's not a workout bike. It's a bike of leisure. It's a bike of rest.
Wow.
You're so distracted by the storm that you've lost your sense of peace. You've lost your sense of trust.
Oh, Rita, wow.
Radical life shift for me. And I want to just read one more verse that I think is important too, out of Psalm 13. It says, how long, Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long must I wrestle with my thoughts and day after day have sorrow in my heart? How long will my enemy triumph over me? Look on me and answer me, Lord my God. Give light to my eyes, or I will sleep in death. And my enemy will say, I've overcome him, and my foes will rejoice when I fall. But I trust in your unfailing love, and my heart rejoices in your salvation. I will sing the Lord's praise, for he has been good to me. You know, these Psalms and these verses that we read that have all this calamity, but then they break out into, okay, but I'll ride the bicycle.
That's right.
I'll ride the bicycle. You know, and I remember having a conversation with Callie before she left, and a few weeks ago, and she was like, get on that bicycle. Get out there and get on the bicycle. And I'm like, I ripped the muscle in my knee. How am I supposed to get on the bicycle? You know, it's like always something to keep me from it. And I did, like, you know, about a week and a half ago, I just got out on the garage and I got on that bicycle, and as painful as it was with my knee, I just kind of did a stupid loop. You know, it was just like okay, I'm done. But I felt victorious. And I felt like I was in the process of winning back my trust fall, winning back the ability to be like, God's the bed behind me, I'm going.
Okay, so basically the same thing. I mean, it wasn't exactly the same message that went along with her vision, but pretty much the same as my dream, right? Calling on the name of the Lord in times of turmoil. So I want that to be in the forefront of our mind as we go into 2024, so that no matter what happens to us, we are very aware of the name of the Lord, of calling on the name of the Lord, of remembering who we are. We are God's children. God is the king of the universe. His children, therefore, have some like privileges. And I want that to be really very present in our conscious mind. Because, you know, sometimes we can know things, but it's kind of down at a subconscious level. It's things we've learned. We know it. It's down in there somewhere. But then there's truths that we really need to keep conscious of. We need to keep them in the forefront. And so I believe that calling on the name of the Lord in times of trouble and the reminder to do that needs to be something that we are very cognitive. I always do that. I always have like words where I kind of get a little, what was the word again? Anyway, cognizant of? Okay. Anyway, you get the idea. So I want that to be in the forefront of your mind. I don't want you to be afraid going into 2024, but I can tell you, I believe we're going to see very hard times in 2024. I don't have a feeling of just thrill and optimism over 2024. However, I will say, I do feel like personally, for believers, for me, for you, if you're a believer in Jesus Christ, that we really have nothing to be afraid of. In fact, be prepared, sweet thing, to rise up like a bright light in a dark night to give hope and light and help to those around us. So be ready to do that. And being ready to do that can look a variety of different ways for each of us, depending on our walk of life, our financial situation, where we live, you know, our sphere of influence. It's going to be different for all of us. But I think we do need to be prepared to be the one that says, I have an answer. I have hope. Here, we need wisdom. I know who to ask. I'll ask. I'll get wisdom for us. You know, whatever it is, be prepared to be what is needed in your specific situation. And I think it's going to hit us in different ways, maybe depending on where we live, and what's going to happen in different regions and stuff like that. So I can't tell you specifically what it will look like for you, but I can tell you, be ready. Be ready. Be in that mindset. Be in the mindset of, in times of trouble, it is God's people who should rise up and have the answers. So I am doing that with something very specific. I have seen a variety of people from a variety of different walks of life and different fields of expertise, all saying the same thing, which is they really believe the power grid is going to go down in 2024. I'm going to actually show you a couple of clips now of people saying that, but I can tell you that I've heard it from about 10 to 15 different people, some of them in the Intel community, basing it on knowledge that they have, not speculation. I have heard it from people in the energy sector, the gas and electric fields, all saying, we're pretty sure the electric grid's going to go down. Okay. Now, again, I don't want that to make you afraid, but I do want that to be an alert to be prepared, right? Let's prepare to the best of our ability. And then also know that you do what you can do, and then you got to trust God with the rest. But also, Noah had to build the ark. Like, he's like, it's going to rain. God's saying, it's going to rain. It's going to rain. It's going to rain. It's going to flood. There's going to be a big flood. And Noah had to take action. God was going to do his part. He was going to save Noah and his family, but Noah still had to build the ark. And there are very practical things that you and I believe, should be doing right now to prepare for what is coming. So because of the different conversations that I've had with Intel people, with military people, with people in the power and gas and electric industries and all of that, I have been collecting information and data, and I have prepared something for you to help you prepare. But first, I want to show you these clips, just a couple of people talking about the power grid. Take a look.
Before COVID, did you ever think that you and I were going to go through an epidemic or a pandemic where we're going to be told that, we're going to shut down everything, you're going to be working from home, you better quarantine, put the mask on, have gloves on, when you're going out there, don't touch this, don't do that, kids stay home. Did you think that, did that thought even cross your mind? When 2019 was going into 2020 and you're preparing in December, did you say, honey, we better be ready for a potential pandemic to happen? We did not think about it. And then all of a sudden, boom, we were hit with it, right? So one thing no one's talking about that is very likely that could happen, a power outage. So imagine power outage happens. No light, no fridge, food is no longer good, no phone charger, phone is done, no internet. What happens to your life? FYI, come on, Pat. That would never happen to us. So let me give you our score on how good we're doing with power energy system. The American Society of Civil Engineers, which gave the U.S. energy system a C- on great on its 2021 infrastructure report card, said that the grid investment trends will eventually lead to a funding gap of almost $200 billion in 2029. And also in 2021, threat assessment from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence stated that Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea have the capability to cause harm to the energy grid. What? Also at the same time, the Energy Secretary, Jennifer Granholm, confirmed that America's adversaries possess the capability to shut down the grid. What? We're going to talk about that.
Insufficient attention to the frightening scenario of a comprehensive cyber attack.
So essentially what this public-private partnership that the WEF is pushing for is for every person's access to the internet to be tied to a digital ID or a government-issued ID, but presumably a digital ID, just because of where government-issued ID programs are all going essentially around the world. People aren't necessarily going to consent to that unless they are made to believe that anonymity and privacy online are dangerous. So how exactly can you convince people that that needs to happen? Well, you have some sort of event where anonymous hackers do something online that causes major disruption globally, and then the consent can be manufactured through fear and panic, as is often done, that anonymity and privacy needs to be eliminated, that we need to know exactly who is doing what online to prevent a calamity of that scale from ever happening again. And this is the exact solution that these guys have been cooking for a very long time.
Hackers affiliated with China's People's Liberation Army have infiltrated critical services here in the U.S.
It was actually a very shocking result to us that there's a very few number of substations you need to take out in the entire United States to knock out the entire grid.
Knock out the entire grid?
That's correct.
How many would it take to knock out, putting the entire country in a blackout?
Less than 20.
That report was from 2013, and it actually found the number was even lower, 9. Taking out just 9 critical substations could black out the whole country.
This was a huge cyber attack in the panicked early days of the COVID-19 pandemic, targeting a $1.8 trillion government agency. The truth of it has never been reported.
This is the Department of Health and Human Services, and on March 16, 2020, they were going to full remote work. Network operators had to adjust all their their firewall and security settings to allow hundreds of thousands of new unknown connections into their network. So they had to scale down their security all at the same time.
And that's when the attack struck.
China's preparing for war with the United States. The strategy here is that they want to be able to invade Taiwan. They're worried that the United States will project military power from bases in Hawaii and the continental United States to Asia to defend Taiwan. And so what China's trying to do is to do these cyber intrusions, lay in wait, and at the right moment attack ports, attack water supply, attack energy supplies to prevent the United States from projecting military power forward.
CCP-tied group is quietly fueling U.S.-based climate initiatives, tax violence. And it goes through. The group's wanting to shut off fossil fuels, shut down the coal plants, CCP funded, Saudi Arabian funded. And they have their buddies in our government that are heavily invested there as the middlemen. They're shipping.
To the WEF, the power grid attack will leave most of the country in darkness for years. And the cyber attack will be so vast that it disconnects the internet for all except those with satellite phones, plunging the nation into chaos. It is from this chaos that a phoenix will rise from the ashes, according to the WEF insider, who explained exactly how the global elite plan to seize control of the US, removing our fundamental freedoms and ushering in the Great Reset. First, let's take a look at what Klaus Schwab has already said on the matter, and pay attention to his body language.
Pay insufficient attention to the frightening scenario of a comprehensive cyber attack, which would bring to a complete halt to the power supply, transportation, hospital services, our society as a whole. The COVID-19 crisis would be seen in this respect as a small disturbance in comparison to a major cyber attack.
You don't have to be an expert in body language to understand Schwab's excitement about the major cyber attack. The global elite already laid the groundwork with the COVID pandemic, pre-programming the masses, and this is the final nail in the coffin. So how are they going to do it? First of all, it's important to remember freedom isn't free. We can't take freedom for granted when the globalist elite are working to take it from us. The elite are determined to unleash chaos in America, and then they plan to strike once. As Obama said, never let a good crisis go to waste. According to the WEF, the massive power grid and cyber strike can be used to plunge America into chaos, while framing their enemy, the freedom-loving patriots of America, with the crime. There are 18 key transformer points across the United States. This is not news, it's been detailed in Senate reports for years. By striking the majority of these transformer points, America will be plunged into darkness for 2 to 3 years. This will enable the Biden regime, working on behalf of the globalist elite, to bring in martial law and rationing in the guise of so-called responsible consumption, which just so happens to be the theme at this year's COP28 at the United Arab Emirates. The European Union tried the concept of demand reduction by raising energy prices by 500% in the past 12 months. But they could not reduce consumption enough to hit the WEF's sadistic net zero targets. So the next concept to be implemented is supply restriction. In the aftermath of a power grid attack, the electricity supply will be severely rationed for years, completely changing life as we know it in America. They also have a scapegoat lined up to take the fall. Of course, they're going to blame conservatives and conspiracy theorists. Mainstream media has already begun the pre-programming.
The Department of Homeland Security is warning of a potential troubling escalation in tactics from right-wing extremists. Catherine Herridge has more on this, and she joins us from Washington. Catherine, we understand the power grid could be a target?
Good morning. According to the intelligence report obtained by CBS News, these groups have developed credible and specific plans to attack the power grid since at least 2020 as a way to disrupt the country and the ability of government to operate. The report warns extremists adhering to a range of ideologies will likely continue to plot and encourage physical attacks against power networks, which include more than 6,400 plants and nearly 500,000 miles of high-voltage lines. While the bulletin emphasized small-scale attacks are unlikely to cause widespread power loss, it may cause disruption to critical infrastructure like hospitals and police departments. Homeland Security noted several indicators, including online chatter. While the report does not suggest an imminent threat, the Homeland Security Secretary has warned lone wolf actors and small bands of extremists are among the greatest domestic threat because they are hard to detect, disrupt, and can mobilize quickly.
Okay, so like I said, that's a couple of people that are not even in those industries, but nonetheless, I'm just showing you that this is a somewhat accepted concern that a pretty broad range of people are saying there is a constant threat to our power grid currently. There has been for a while. And the other that I've heard this from is hospital administrators. I've heard it from multiple hospital administrators in multiple states that they are preparing for a blackout. They are preparing for power grid failure. So in light of that, I was thinking about my grandpa. My grandpa Bill was, he lived through the World Wars and the Depression, and he was a true survivor. And not only did he survive, but he learned to thrive. So once the Depression was over, he moved to California with his family from the Midwest, where the Depression was so severe, and came to California and became a successful businessman. But no matter how successful he became, he still always had the mindset of what it was like to live in the Depression, right? Maybe you have grandparents, or maybe you are a grandparent that lived through that you understand what I mean, right? They always have that mentality of like, yeah, it's good now, but we've seen other times. And they knew how to live, the scripture about, I've learned how to be content with much. I've learned how to be content with nothing. I've learned how to be content. That was the greatest generation, right? The World War veterans, the people who lived through the Depression, they had a mentality of, we've been through, we've had nothing, we have plenty. We know the secret of being content. At least that was my view of my grandfather. And while he was a successful businessman at work, he was an insurance broker. He would go to work, make money, and then he would come home, and then he would tend to his garden and take care of his animals and live off the land, because he knew very much that he was not about to put his ability to feed himself into the government's hand or into some other grocer's hand or into any food chain supply people's hands. None of that. He was going to be responsible for feeding his own self. And with the help of God and his parents who taught him how to garden, how to work the land and all that, he did. And so as a child, I would go and I was amazed by his garden. He had this big, beautiful garden, and I would have to work in his garden. I'd have to pick off all the little worms, the tomato worms. He'd have me go through each of the tomato plants and pick off all the tomato worms. And because he didn't use pesticides either, he had natural ways of taking care of his garden, which is amazing back then that he was doing that. Very, very natural, very organic. So he would work the land, and then he would harvest his vegetables, and I would with him harvest vegetables. And we'd go into the house, and I would he'd put me up on the counter, and he'd wash his vegetables, and he'd prepare his glass jars, the mason jars. He would prepare those for his vegetables, and then he would sit there and can his harvest with vinegar and with a concoction, that he put into the jars to preserve it. And then it went into these shelves in the laundry room, shelf after shelf after shelf of preserved harvest. So that, if the crop in a few months wasn't quite as good, there was backup. There was always food on hand, and he was in complete control of that food. So in light of my grandpa Bill and his ability to thrive and his survival techniques and skills and knowledge, I decided to write a book called, are you ready for it? Let me put it up on the screen. It's long, which I kind of did it as a joke. The name is kind of ridiculous, but it's called Grandpa Bill's Step-by-Step Guide to Thriving in the Apocalypse. So I wrote that name, and it's so long and ridiculous, but I wanted to honor him. So I wanted to put his name in the title. And also I wanted to make sure that it's a step-by-step guide. It's very practical. I literally went through and put step by step. This is how you do this. This is how you do this, so that you could get this book and feel like you are empowered very practically to take your ability to feed yourself, your family, and hopefully even maybe neighbors into your own hands, and to know actually how to do it. Okay, so here are a few things that I cover in the book. In chapter 1, I talk about the greatest generations, lessons in survival. We can learn so much from those who have already gone before us and lived through hard times. In chapter 2, I talk about the power grid. Is there really anything to be concerned about? Yes, there is. Hint, hint. Chapter 3, I give you a complete and comprehensive list of my Grandpa Bill's list for strategic items for a post-grid survival time. Chapter 4 is about sustenance, becoming a great farmer and gardener. Chapter 5 is all about canning fruits and vegetables. Chapter 6 is all about chickens. Chapter 7 is about guns. I talk about what kinds to get, how to take care of them, how to use them. And in chapter 8, I talk about the most important part, using what we know to strengthen our spirit to be prepared for the times ahead. And it's more than just garden. It's a lot of different things that I write about. So it's small. It's just a small book guide, very practical for your life. And I believe it's going to be a blessing to you, so much so that I actually want to give it to you. So today only, I'm giving you the book for free. Click on the link below, today only, and it's yours for free. So, because I'm wanting this information out. This isn't about money. This is about helping people and getting the information out. Click on the link. The book's free for you. And then all I ask from you is, if you're willing, if you would, please leave me a review of the book. I'm not asking for you to lie. Give an honest review. If you don't like it, you can say so. But leave a review of the book. That helps me, because then Amazon actually starts promoting the book. Yes, I know Amazon's not good. Yes, I am selling the book on Amazon until we have a better option. That's what I'm doing still. So, so if you would, if you get the book for free, especially, please leave a review. Please promise to leave a little review. That helps. And then Amazon will promote it so I can get the book into people's hands that are not even in my audience. And they'll actually, if you get enough reviews, they start promoting it for you for free. So I'm hoping that that will happen so that we can empower literally as many people as possible across the whole country to take their power back. Because guys, if the power grid goes down, which seems fairly likely. I hope it doesn't. I really hope it doesn't. But by the way, this book will help you even if it doesn't. These are still, the step-by-step guide stuff is still stuff that you'd want to do whether or not the power grid goes down. So it's not just if the power grid goes down, but it is mostly what made me, feel compelled to write it, was talking to all these people who are saying, listen, the power grid is probably going to go down. And I was like, what? My instinct is you. Like, okay, how do I help people? I've got this. I've got people who watch my show. How do I help them? And so that's why I wrote this book. But a lot of it is stuff that I'm doing whether or not the power grid goes down. And I'm going to hopefully keep doing. I've already told you guys about how I planted my garden, and I'm expanding it right now. So I'm working the land, trying to be a Proverbs 31 woman. I want to take care of my family. I want to be a blessing to my neighbors. I'm very aware that if the power grid goes down, it's likely that there are other people on my street who have not prepared at all. Well, guess what they're going to do? They're going to come looking for help, right? So I think it's good to, as much as we are able, prepare for our own family and others so that we can be a light and a blessing and a provider for people in times of need. Really, if you think about it, we need to be Josephs. We need to have storehouses. And again, I'm not a doomsdayer person, but that's a good idea no matter what. Look at what even happened during COVID and supply chain stuff, right? Of course that could happen again. Absolutely it could happen again. In fact, I think there is a plan for it to happen again. And other countries are always trying to hack our systems and take our power grid down. So let's not bury our heads in the sand. Let's actually prepare. So if you want to, get my book, and so that you can just read. It's an easy read. It's literally step by step, like, okay, step 1, do this. Step 2, do this. It's anyone can read it. A kid can read it. So I hope that you get it. I hope that you enjoy it. I hope that it's helpful to you. If you can, please leave a review. It really does help. And also, if you've read my other book, Life Beginning, leave me a review. Please. It helps. I appreciate it. So let's be full of hope, and let's be sober and aware of what's coming without fear or dread, but let's prepare. So get Grandpa Bill's step-by-step guide to thriving in the apocalypse. Send this to a friend so that they can prepare also, because that's the thing, right? We want all of our friends to be prepared, because if you're the one that prepares and none of your friends prepare, again, they're coming to you because they know you're preparing. Like, you want as many people as possible to prepare their own self so that you're not taking care of them. They're taking care of themselves. So send this to everybody and their brother, post it on your, post this video on social media. And so people can get the book, know what to do, know how to prepare, and so that we can thrive in the apocalypse if it happens. Hopefully it doesn't happen. See, worst case scenario, it happens and then we're prepared, right? I mean, but no, I guess worst case scenario is it happens. We watched this video, we got this info, and we did not prepare. That's worst case scenario. Best case scenario, we prepare and it doesn't happen. And then what happens? Well, now we have very useful items in our home. Now we have the ability to feed ourselves. And by the way, if you live in a zone of, part of the country where you're like packed out with snow right now or whatever, you're like, I can't plant a garden. No, in the book, I tell you how to have a countertop garden in your home, even if you're in a tiny little apartment in New York. I wrote this so that everybody in the country can do these steps. And that was a lot of work to think through all the different ways, all the different kinds of situations that people would be in and try to address them. But I did that, hopefully to help you. So I hope it's a blessing. I hope that you read the book and feel like you're more prepared to take action, right? Because if we read it and don't take action, that doesn't help either. We got to read the book, do what it says, share it with others so that they can prepare, so that we can be the light and the salt that God has called us to be. So that is all I have for you today. I hope that you will take this very seriously. I think you really should. I don't want people to be unprepared. And I've just talked to too many people who know what's going on, and we need to prepare, but without fear. So God bless you. Thank you for watching. I hope that 2024 is a year where we all come closer to the Lord, where we share the light and joy of the Lord with others around us. Because honestly, it's our only hope. Jesus is always our only hope, in good times and bad times. It's just that in good times, sometimes we can be deceived into thinking it's other things. Like we can, have hope in other things. But when times are real hard, suddenly people put their hope in the Lord. And that's a good thing. So it's a good thing. So I'm looking forward to 2024 for that reason. I believe many will come to know the Lord in 2024. So leave this show today full of hope and go get the book immediately right now. Click off of here and get Grandpa Bill's step-by-step guide to thriving in the apocalypse. God bless you, and know that you are loved. See you soon. The link to purchase this book is in the description box below this video. You can also get it on my website, rachelham.com. Also, I don't normally do this, but I'd like to ask you today to share this video. Who do you know that needs to be prepared? Who do you know that might come to you if times get hard because they know you're likely to prepare and they weren't prepared? Share the video with them. Give them a chance to prepare. Who can you share this video with? Buy the book, share the video,